What's your emergency?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the MPIO podcast, a place to discuss all public information related topics for police, fire, EMS, and local and federal government organizations.
It was a good learning experience for a lot of us that social media is not real life.
But we have to remember the media are very rarely a target audience. They're simply that conduit.
Our words have impacts on individuals, and it may not be positive. So just being thoughtful and mindful of the words that we speak.
I think what's so interesting about this position too, and this job and this profession, is that every one of us is looking for purpose. And when we find it here, that's it.
To know is that a crisis for one is not necessarily a crisis for another.
This episode is sponsored by the Social Media Strategy Summit, the leading provider of social media education. They host annual events designed specifically for government communications professionals like you to help you build and engage your communities through social media. Visit their website at socialmediastrategysummit.com to learn more and use promo code PIO podcast for 10% off of your registration. Today on the PIO podcast, we have Public Information Officer Mikayla Moskov from Horry County. Welcome to the show, Mikayla.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Mikayla, you are the Public Information Director for Horry County Government and the Horry County Police Department. But I see that you came from the other side. What brought you from the news media to public information?
It was a combination of factors, to be honest. Give you a little bit of background, if that's okay, to kind of get you to where I am now. So back in 2018, I was working in broadcast journalism. I was an assignment editor, and before that, a digital content producer. So I dealt with a lot of PIOs. I dealt with a lot of elected officials setting stories up and kind of building out these stories that my reporters would cover. And often I would run into these requests that were just really difficult to get anyone to want to talk to us about or acquire records related to. And there came a time in our community where there was a little bit of turmoil in our local police department, some turnover in members of that department, and including public information. And there was this gap where I said, I've got to talk to them. I got to tell them what I'm experiencing from the media side and kind of represent the community. And so I went into a PIO interview just to give them my thoughts. I figured I was just going to try and get the ear of the chief, since I could never seem to get him on the phone personally. And I didn't really think I was going to get a job offer out of it. So I just took the chance and said, hey, at least maybe he'll hear me out. Turns out he's the kind of guy that will hear anybody out, and he liked that I wasn't just telling him pretty positive things, and I got a job offer I didn't expect out of it. So it was a catalyst moment for my growth and development and whatnot, where I had to say, oh, do I actually want to be a PIO, or is that something I'm capable of that I would enjoy? And I started wondering, how did I get into journalism? No idea. It was a happy accident. Why did I study communications and criminal justice? No idea. I was just interested in it. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So here was this opportunity where it was like, okay, another happy accident. Let's go with it.
Mikayla, I'm going to jump into another question because I do not know if our listeners necessarily know where Horry County is located and what is the population.
So Horry County is coastal South Carolina, right where we border North Carolina. We encompass Myrtle Beach, if you're familiar with that sort of beach golf destination. Gets a lot of tourism. We're about 1,200 square miles with about 350,000 people as our permanent residents, but about 20 million annual visitors. So we skew from hyper rural permanent residents, have been here forever, the names go back generations, to individuals who spend maybe a weekend, maybe a week with us. We get a lot of folks that retire from up north, come down to us, and sometimes there are seasonal snowbirds, sometimes there are year-round residents. We get a lot of people who are also our halfbacks. They moved down to Florida. They decided Florida man wasn't for them, so they decided to try out Horry County. And sometimes they stick around, sometimes they just stay for a season. But we have to, reach all of those different audiences and make sure we're communicating based on their very diverse needs.
Okay, so how many county employees do you represent? And what is the breakdown in the police department's sworn versus civilian staff?
So we have about 2,500 county employees, and that's across all the different departments. We're also pretty unique in that we have both a county sheriff's office and a county police department. Only a jurisdiction in South Carolina that does that. So within that 2,500, there are about 300 police officers for county police and about 60 police department employees who are non-sworn professional staff.
Okay.
That's a very small number of officers for a very large population and area.
I was going to say that, and I'm assuming that the sheriff's department only handles the jail, correct?
Yeah, so they are jail and court side. They serve papers, they handle all the detention center elements, and we certainly work with them a lot, but we're very much the investigative side for the police department.
So with that small number in the police department, when you're dealing with Myrtle Beach, which is a tourist mecca, and everybody likes to go there, how are you guys handling that with that relatively small group?
With a lot of partnership.
Okay.
So there are municipal police departments here as well. Myrtle Beach has their own police department. Conway, which is the county seat, has their own police department. And we work very, very well and very closely with the city's police departments. Okay. We're also very fortunate to work with our state highway patrol. They handle all of our traffic calls for us. For county. So my guys and gals don't do the standard traffic enforcement except for in a very small capacity. Most of that is our highway patrol people.
Oh, that kind of takes a little of the edge off there. I'm going to make an assumption here. How many people staff your unit?
So within Horry County Public Information, we have a team of 8. And that team of 8 is myself and my deputy director. We are also the 2 PIOs effectively. I represent the police department. He represents emergency management alongside our sort of supervisory roles. And then we have 2 other PIOs, one of which represents fire and EMS in particular, and another of which will represent, when they start next week, the animal shelter and sort of general government. So very excited to have that fully staffed for the PIO contingent very soon. It's been a little bit of time since our previous member left. And then we also have 2 members who are the marketing and content coordinators, very similar to a digital content producer for those who came from broadcast journalism, and 2 individuals who deal with our records requests and Freedom of Information Act fulfillment.
Oh, that would be so nice if I had someone to do that. That would be great.
We're very thankful for all of our team members.
That's a pretty well-staffed public information department.
Yeah, we're hoping to grow more. Knock on wood, fingers crossed, good budget years coming up. We'll be able to keep growing.
Let's talk about your average day. Give us a rundown from the moment you walk into the building.
Absolute chaos from start to finish. Like many PIOs, I'm sure, the day starts long before the actual getting in the door, getting to the office. It's laying in bed and checking the news feeds that have come through overnight, following up on those emails, text messages, tweets, whatever may have happened, reading the overnight interwatch, and then actually getting to the office and seeing what the list is of meetings and community events, touch base phone calls that need to happen, or whatever the day may hold in that regard. trying to be proactive every step of the way, but often it is very reactive. In public safety, we can't anticipate when the Chinese spy balloon is going to go over our jurisdiction and then get shot down over that same jurisdiction.
That was you guys?
That was us.
Oh, wow.
Yep. That was a very coordinated Sunday.
I can't even imagine what that had to be like with all the national media attacking you guys.
I was certainly thankful for all of our partners in that case.
Let me ask you this. Because of your dual role as the PIO for the county, do you represent the county board as well?
Okay. Oh, you're good. You're good. So county council is somewhat separate. We have an administrator council system. So I am on the administrator's side of the house, per se. Okay. That said, whenever, county council has public information questions, or whenever they have events they want us to be aware of or need talking points, they touch base with me and request those items.
Okay. So you're not dealing with a lot of the day-to-day board stuff that another PIO from that would have to deal with that, I'm assuming.
So I do the county council meetings and the committee meetings and things like that in a sort of, let's make sure the media is able to get what they need from this capacity, but not so much representing those council members.
Okay. All right, great. You already answered my question. I'm not going to worry about that. What social media platforms are you currently running right now?
We try to be on everything, but our governor says we can't be on TikTok, so we're going to stay with that. So we don't have TikTok and we don't have WhatsApp. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're trying very hard to get more activity on the LinkedIn and Nextdoor. Generally speaking, we get the most activity on our Facebook, and our media members generally follow our Twitter. So we split our efforts to those most of the time. But again, LinkedIn and Nextdoor are ongoing projects. YouTube is something we'd like to get into, but that's when we get that videographer role that I'm really hoping for.
Yeah, I'm sure that will definitely help. I mean, because video is such an important thing now, and I have a girl that does video and our social. She is basically 95% video and 5% social now. And we're just in the process of trying to hire another part-timer to cover just the video, because it's incredible how much you have to produce.
Oh yeah. And it's fun to produce. There's a wealth of opportunity there. It just can be so time consuming, and even the tech you're using for it can become so time consuming in and of itself when you really get into it.
Oh, absolutely. And then getting stuff approved, if it's something like a critical incident debrief or something like that, it's even more problematic, because then you're trying to produce something in a time frame that has to be out, and yet you have to deal with the approvals that have to go with it too.
Yep, certainly.
All right, so what social media platform do you believe gives you the most exposure in Horry County? You said Facebook, but because you're splitting it, because Facebook probably your population is probably a little older. Your general population?
Older, yeah.
Okay, so Facebook is obviously the most common one. But Twitter, obviously for the news media, they like that speed of it. And if you condition them to listen to it, they're going to all follow it, right?
Yep. When we go on quarterly visits, we try for quarterly. COVID put a little bit of a lurch in that for a while, but we go on quarterly visits to all of our local media outlets, and we sit down, try to, get some face-to-face time with the new reporters, producers, whatever staff members they may have added, and say, here's how we're trying to get information to you. How can we improve? What ideas do you have? Things like that. And we actually went to a visit recently where someone asked, well, why do you put things on this platform versus that platform? And we said, well, when we did these visits previously, the news team members at the time said, we really need you to have it on Twitter. And so we put our efforts for the media on Twitter and the community a little bit more on Facebook. And the newsroom was like, oh, so that's why we have TweetDeck up in there. Got it. Okay. I was like, there's a whole circle of life happening with that.
Right. And it's kind of funny because my daughter's she's a journalist up in Madison, Wisconsin. So it all depends too, because I'm sure you have a market there where you get a lot of younger reporters and digital content people. So they're new. They don't quite understand it sometimes coming in, and it's a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
So when you came in as the public information director, what surprised you when you first arrived?
So I had the fortunate circumstance of coming into the director role from the county PIO role in the same organization. And the same thing that surprised me when I started as the PIO that surprised me now as the director. And that's the wealth of opportunities the county was willing to kind of throw my direction. They just said, hey, we made a good hire. We trust that we made a good hire. Do your thing. Do the most that you can with whatever is available. And so my first week was a hurricane. It was a 23-day activation. And they're like, you're going in the presidential press pool. Have fun. Get the photos of the president here. We'll put them in the museum. And they just said, we have faith in you. Go for it. Same thing happened when I took on the director role, which was just, hey, we have faith that you'll do well. We're giving you any resources you need. Go forth and conquer. I did not expect that, considering that I came from a newsroom where it was much more micromanaged. So being able to have that opportunity to grow and to help other people grow and to see other people really thrive in their roles and explore new avenues and to be able to encourage that has just been so fulfilling. I'm sure
that's one of the things where PIOs wish we could be turned loose and trust what we do, because most of us, all of us, know what we're doing, and we're very cognizant about image and the brand and what needs to be said the right way. And sometimes leaders don't always realize that. So that's great that they realize that for you. That's awesome. What advice would you have for someone who's either transitioning from either the news media or just looking to get into the public information position?
First and foremost, I would say training. Get whatever training or, prep items that you can ready for that transition. There are a ton of, online certifications that you can participate in. There are independent study courses through FEMA and many other organizations. Certainly someone could pursue an associate's, bachelor's, master's, whatever the case may be, if they're that motivated about it. But outside of that, build those relationships. Like, PIOs need PIOs. There's a reason we all talk to each other, and we want to have these opportunities to get to know each other and grow. So if you want to move into public information, get to know the PIOs, have a good working relationship with them and ask for guidance. I know that in the last few years, I've had journalists from this area and from others just reach out at different points and say, hey, I'm looking for my next opportunity. Maybe I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet, but what guidance do you have? What kind of tips would you give me? And I'm like, any knowledge I have, you are more than welcome to. I will tell you as much or as little as you want to know. Tell me when to stop. And those are the kind of relationships that any person looking to jump from news or another field to public information really could have and could do.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So you've handled a hurricane. You handled the spy balloon. What are some of the other things that have just been absolute shockers for you?
During that same hurricane, when I first started, I went out on a war.
By the way, how many years ago was that?
We're going on 5.
Okay.
It hasn't been that long is the craziest part. But the same hurricane, when I first started, about a week into it, I want to say, we were dealing with substantial flooding that just stuck around for ages. We're prone to coastal flooding and riverine flooding, so it can be quite the long time frame whenever we get that influx of water. And I hear that there's a water rescue going on. And I've just been given all these opportunities. They say, hey, if something sounds interesting, you can go out with us. So I hear water rescue and I'm like, please, can I go? Like, all right, get in the high water vehicle. You just got to be okay with being stuck out there. All right, still don't know what I'm going to. I'm just getting in this vehicle because I want to find a story.
Right.
It turns out that it's cows stuck in floodwater. Now, have you ever seen cows in water wings? Because we put water wings on some cows. And apparently that is how you get them out of floodwater. Yes. some of my most
Wow.
interesting calls have been animal related, and that was
And I'm sure they go viral too, right? Some of those.
My good friend Trent Ferris, who is in
Oh, yeah.
Yep,
I know
you're familiar.
Trent very well.
He had a pig that went viral. And I had a monkey lineup once where we had a monkey that attacked someone. We had to figure out which monkey it was from the zoo. So we had the monkey.
Wait, whoa.
Yep.
Hold on. You said a monkey lineup?
Mm-hmm. Yep. which monkey attacked a person? Yes.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, the animal incidents just never stop coming in Horry County. We are the land of Tiger King.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
All
So we've had that. We've had, some alligator incidents. So again, we give Florida man a run for his money there.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention, we've had our share of, the standard police incidents, a pursuit that goes viral. We have wildfires occasionally. We've had, I've dealt with some of the less positive incidents like the line of duty deaths and barricaded subjects and things like that. Not so much civil unrest, but certainly social unrest in certain regards, like Horry County.
How did you guys do during the George Floyd stuff that occurred?
So generally speaking, we fared pretty well. Our community already had a pretty tight relationship with public safety and law enforcement. There was certainly investment in what was going on a national stage, but we didn't see that sort of physical activity related to it at the local level. Our law enforcement agencies actually all came together, put out a joint message saying, something certainly went wrong here, and we are committed to ensure that it doesn't happen in our community. We won't stand for that. And that's one of my more proud moments as a PIO is just spearheading that PSA and being able to get, 20 some chiefs and sheriffs from 2 counties to come together on one day, because any PIO knows that's herding cats.
Oh yeah, that's tough. Very tough. There's not a chief I know that doesn't have a schedule that's booked out 3 to 4 weeks in advance.
100%.
Yeah. All right, so is there a question I should have asked? And if so, how would you have answered it?
I was honestly just surprised you didn't ask about my MPIO research because that's what everyone has asked about recently. It was more focusing on internal communications than external, but also making the argument that internal communications is as much a part of PIO as external. So I was surprised that wasn't in there, but I will definitely take this moment to remind everyone that your internal audiences, your employees, they are the people that can become your brand advocates. They are the people who can go out and represent you in the community. And if you inform and educate them, then they feel empowered to represent your agency in a positive way, as opposed to some potentially negative or just uneducated moments.
So I apologize about not asking about the MPIO stuff, because I saw that you had been asked a lot by that when you were getting interviewed for other stuff. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to ask that because it would just be somebody else already did it, right? But why don't you talk about that a little bit more and go into a little bit more detail on it anyways, because I didn't ask it, but you brought it up.
Well, I do appreciate the opportunity to just say that MPIO is a great program. Anyone who's interested should do it. Please apply. I loved working with my cohort in MPIO, and it was definitely worthwhile. My particular research just focused on, working with those internal audiences to keep them informed and thereby making them into more effective external brand representatives. People are going to talk about your agency when they work for your agency regardless, so you might as well give them the right things and the right tools to use when they're doing that communication. My argument was essentially give everybody in your agency basic PIO training. If they're going to be a representative, make them a qualified representative. Maybe they're not stepping in front of a camera, but they probably do have a Facebook page where they're going to occasionally talk about their job.
Yep, or complain or whatever it might be.
Yep.
And then there's always those ones that like to create their own anonymous page, so to speak.
As long as
That
the
will
last
be your
name's not
detractors
on
of-
there, we won't know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's change this up. Let's go to some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Texting or talking?
Text me. Put it in print.
Coffee or tea?
Oh, that's split. They're both caffeinated. It's going to be coffee, but my Bulgarian mother-in-law is going to insist that I should have said tea, so I'm just going to give that courtesy mention.
Okay. Adult drink of choice?
Stole it from my husband because I don't drink much, and it is a Di Serono ginger. It's amaretto ginger. It's like a really sweet combination, but subtle at the same time, so I like it.
Oh, different. Okay. What would be your superpower if you could have one?
Time travel. There are a lot of things
second-
that I'd like to see.
Okay, second person I have interviewed in the last week that has said the same thing. Cool. Do you have a pet?
I don't, but I bought a house just so I could get a pet. I have my priorities in order.
There you go. Is there a book or an author that's had an influence on you?
100%. So many. I am a voracious reader, so just bookshelves upon bookshelves, and so many audiobooks. The one that comes to mind, though, is The Mission, The Men, and Me by Pete Blaber. It's written by a former Delta commander, and he talks a lot about leadership and, how people operate in relation to each other and in relation to situations. And a lot of what he says applies to public information and how we communicate to our communities. One of those elements is just that when you provide information, people consume it in 3 stages, essentially. It's like saturate. I'm going to lose it now that I'm trying to say it. Saturate with the information, incubate, and then illuminate. So basically the premise of sleep on it, let it soak in, let the information, make it deeper into your brain is really, really accurate. When we're putting those messages out, keep that in mind so that people can have it saturate effectively, incubate on it in a way that improves the message or makes it, resound within them, and then let them feel illuminated from it, empowered by it.
Excellent. Ask permission or beg for forgiveness?
I know which one I should say when I'm being recorded and I work for a government agency. It depends on the situation. We'll leave it at that.
Gotcha. Spoken like a true PIO. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
Definitely Teddy Roosevelt. I would like to hear some of his thoughts on various historical situations and leadership principles.
Yeah, he definitely was an interesting person.
Really definitely a character.
Oh, yeah. Okay, final thoughts. What key points would you like our listeners to take from tonight's interview?
One of the key points I'd like people to take from this interview and from any of your episodes, because I've appreciated so many of them, is just that PIOs need their PIOmies. Like we need other PIOs to be able to improve and be the most effective people that we can be in our roles and just in society in general. So if we get nothing else out of it other than an improved sense of community, then I'm happy. So I just want to remind everyone of that. And then I also really enjoy everyone's individual journey to how they became a PIO. It's very rarely a straight path. Mine was an accident of a job interview, it feels like. So I know that others have certainly been in similar situations. And if there's anyone out there who is still trying to find, their ultimate goal or what they want to be, just know it's not a straight path, but it's going to be fine regardless.
Right. Absolutely. Anything you'd like to add? Anything at all?
Just that I'm here to help, honestly. I want everyone to know that if they need, comms materials, if they need somebody to run something by, if you need somebody to proof what's going on or an extra set of hands in an emergency, like I'm here to help. Again, PIOs need PIOs, and I don't care what state you're in or what your situation is. I'd like to help.
Awesome. How can people best reach out to you if they want to connect or follow up?
I'm on all the social media, so LinkedIn, Twitter, I'm under Mikayla Moskov. My email address is various combinations of my name, and I'm sure I can give that to you for you to put out there in the world. But Mikayla.moskov@gmail, Moskov.Mikayla@Horry County, any of those. I am an email or a message or a phone call away anytime.
And I will add some of that into the show notes. Not all of it, because you don't need to get it from all directions. Mikayla, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm glad I got the chance to interview you because you're a wealth of information. And you are just a fire plug of a person. I love it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You have a great night, Mikayla. Thank you.
You too. Bye now.
That's all for this week. We hope you enjoyed this episode. On next week's episode of the PIO podcast, Eric E. Holdman will be on. Join us then. Another huge thank you to the Social Media Strategies Summit for being a sponsor of the PIO podcast. Join their First Responders Summit this April or their Government Summit this May. Learn more about confirmed speakers and programming at socialmediastrategiessummit.com and use promo code PIO Podcast for 10% off of your registration.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to get notified of the latest episode. If you are listening on a platform that allows reviews, please give us a review. We appreciate any review, good or bad. It helps us improve on each episode. Until next time, be safe.